Wednesday, February 10th, 2021 will be conducted virtually through the Zoom video conferencing application, and it will be live streamed on the Township of Wykoff's YouTube channel. The work session is scheduled for 7:30 and the public business meeting will begin at 8 p.m. These measures are implemented to allow members of the public to observe the meeting via live streaming and to provide the ability to comment during the periods for public comment during the meeting through Zoom telephone call-in technology. Excuse me. Joining the meeting by telephone will be utilized as security against the sharing of inappropriate video content. General instructions regarding access to the meeting is posted on the Wyckoff website's homepage at www.wyckoff-nj.com as a news item. The February 10th, 2021 work session of the Wyckoff Planning Board is now in session. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting appears on our annual schedule of meetings. A copy of said annual schedule has been posted on the bulletin board in Memorial Town Hall. A copy has been filed with the Township Clerk, the Record, the Ridgewood News, and the North Jersey Herald and News. All newspapers are general circulation throughout the Township of Wyckoff. At least 48 hours prior to this meeting, the agenda thereof was similarly posted, filed, and mailed to said newspapers. Members of the public may observe the meeting by following the instructions posted on the Wyckoff website as a news item. In accordance with Section 7A of the Open Public Meetings Act, participation on the part of the public will not be entertained during the work session. Okay, Maureen, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Ms. Conlon, Mr. Sedita,
Please unmute for the roll call.
Here.
Mr. Homechak,
Here.
Mr. Fisher, Mr. Sietsma,
Here.
Mr. Boonstra,
Here.
Mr. Pervin, Ms. Rubenstein,
Here.
Chairman Fortunato,
Here.
Mr. Alexandru,
Here.
Ms. Bogdansky.
Here.
All right, good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well, surviving the snow. Looks like we may have more on the way from what I'm hearing. The first item of business is approval of the January 13th, 2021 work session and regular business minutes. Did everybody have an opportunity to review that? Anybody have any comments or questions on the work session minutes? Looked okay to me. Any comment on the public business meeting minutes? Maureen, I just noticed one misspelling on page 3 in the last paragraph. It starts with Mr. DeGennaro stated that the landscape plan, and then it should be proposes. Just a couple of letters are left out there.
Oh, okay. I'll fix that before I post them.
Everything else looks good to me. Anybody else have any other questions or comments? If not, can I have a motion to approve both the work session and business meeting minutes of January 13th?
Motion to approve the work session and public meeting minutes as before you. Mike Maycheck.
I'll second that. Glenn.
Thank you. Mr. Sedita,
Approved.
Mr. Homechak,
Yes.
Mr. Sietsma,
Yes.
Mr. Boonstra,
Yes.
Mr. Alexandru,
Yes.
Bogdansky,
Yes.
Mayor Rubenstein,
Yes.
Chairman Fortunato.
Yes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a request for a 90-day extension of approval for the minor subdivision. This is the application involving the Township of Wyckoff and Timothy Brackett. It was the land swap. Mr. Garlick from Mr. Landell's office has requested a 90-day extension of time to record the perfected deeds. He sent in, I think, an email request. Is that correct, Mr. Hanley?
I think I got a letter for that.
Oh, was it a formal letter too? Let me see. You're right. It was a letter, February 4th. And they have a right for the extension, correct? They need more time?
Yes,
Okay.
they've tried to get all their permits expeditiously, and we have the right to give them additional time.
Right. I think that the slowdown is the result of COVID, from what I understand, so can't be helped. Okay, I guess we need to approve this though, right? By vote? Yeah. Okay, can I
Yes.
have a motion to approve the 90-day extension requested by the Township of Wykoff for to record the perfected deeds?
Motion to approve the land swap applicant requesting a 90-day extension.
This
Mike.
is block 203, lots 1.02 and 1.03, just for clarification. Thanks, Mike.
I'll second that, Glenn.
Mr. Sedita,
Yes.
Mr. Homachak,
Yes.
Mr. Seetsma,
Yes.
Mr. Boonstra,
Yes.
Mr. Alexandru,
Yes.
Ms. Bogdansky,
Yes.
Mayor Rubenstein,
Yes.
Chairman Fortunato.
Yes. The next matter on is the Dimitriakou matter. Just we're going to skip over that for a minute. I'm going to go to the Gary Kale matter, which is 225 Van Houten Avenue. I understand that application is either adjourned or withdrawn, but in any case, it's not going to be on this evening. That's correct, Mr. DeGennaro?
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
We
so,
expect to see something, probably next month,
okay.
perhaps.
All right, so that item's off the agenda. Let's go to the.
Robert,
Yes.
Rob, if I may interrupt, my screen froze up during the last vote. On behalf of the township, I just want to thank the board for granting this extension. This was a land swap that benefits the town to a great degree, so it's entirely prudent that we do so. I thank the board.
Thanks, Rudy. Okay, the next matter on is for completeness is the Dimitriakou matter, which is 802 Albemarle Street, block 429, lot 32. This is the applicant's proposing to demolish the existing residential structure and alter the grading of the property, resulting in soil movement in excess of 100 cubic yards in order to construct a new home on the lot. It comes before us because of the soil movement application. Mr. DeGennaro, you prepared a memo on this. Could you bring us through that, please?
Yeah, sure. So 802 Albemarle, that is a single-family residential home in the RA 25 zone. The applicant, as you stated, is looking to demolish the existing house and improve the property to construct a new dwelling, driveway, as well as change the grading of the property, which triggers an excess of fill in excess of 100 cubic yards, requiring planning board approval. The applicant has already gone in and removed, in essence, all the trees from the property, about 37 trees, without prior stormwater management approval. The property is served by municipal sanitary sewers. A post-construction certification of zero net increase in runoff by the design engineer of record must be provided together with final as-built site plan, including topography, in order to obtain a CO. I'd like that as a condition of the resolution if this board deems the application complete tonight and decides to hear it and ultimately approve it. The other recommendation I have is that the underground electric utility is required. I'm not sure that area is already underground, but on any new house construction, we want the electric underground. In fact, I think I know that area is not underground electric. Also, because we're dealing with the import of soil, any soil that is going to be imported must be analyzed, and a soil manifest needs to be provided to identify the certificate of origin to me as a township engineer, so we ensure that all imported material is free from debris and does not contain contaminants which may exceed the residential direct contact soil remediation standards established by the New Jersey DEP. And also, as a new construction, Bergen County soil conservation approval is required. I believe they already filed that, and I think we already got a letter from Bergen County, so that's been satisfied. What I would suggest, and I inform the board, is that because of the violation that took place of Section 163 of the Stormwater Management Ordinance and removing these trees prior to obtaining approval, there will be a penalty that's issued by the by the building department, code enforcement department prior to issuance of any permits if this application is approved.
Thanks, Mark. Mark, just because you brought that up, could you just give us a thumbnail of the ordinance that was violated? Just explain what it is and how it was violated, because I think a lot of people, including me, we didn't know that there was that removing trees could trigger any type of potential penalty with the town.
Right. Well, whenever you're dealing with a stormwater management plan and approval requirements, the landscaping comes into play as well as tree removals. So anybody who's doing any work that requires stormwater management has an obligation to fulfill a plan review and approval process before they can begin any work on the property. So we often get calls regularly about people saying, "Oh, was there a tree ordinance in town? Can we cut trees down?" The first question we ask is it in connection with any kind of work? Is it going to require a stormwater management plan? If the answer is yes, we advise them that they're not supposed to cut trees down because of the fact that the town is so concerned about clear cutting. So whenever we're dealing with stormwater management, septic plans, additions, construction to a property, we regulate the trees that come down on a property.
Okay, thanks. I know I discussed this with Mr. Hanley, counsel for the board, and we'd had another situation like this where there was a violation and it was brought to the board's attention, and there was a question as to whether the board or not should or could get involved in any type of penalty recommendation or enforcement. And I know it had been our position, and I'll defer to Mr. Hanley in a minute on it, that it really wasn't within our purview as the planning board to do that. I appreciate you bringing it to our attention, but I think the position of the planning board is that we will defer to you on that and send it back to you for enforcement and dealing with any sort of code enforcement through the municipal court. Mr. Hanley, do you have an opinion on that?
And my opinion is the same as yours. I do not think that's within our purview to be enforcement officials. I'm happy that Mr. DeGennaro brought this to our attention, but the fact of the matter is this is a matter to be determined by code enforcement.
Okay. Okay. So it's your opinion, I believe, Mark, that the application can be deemed incomplete in your opinion?
No, I think it can be deemed complete.
I'm sorry,
tonight.
complete. I said incomplete. You're right.
Yeah.
I meant complete.
No.
Okay.
Yes, I have no objections.
Okay. Do any board members have any comments or questions before we put it to vote on the completeness issue? If we do deem this complete, then we will hear it as the second matter on the public agenda this evening. Not hearing from anybody, can I have a motion to deem this matter complete?
Motion to deem this matter complete. Mike?
I'll second that. Glenn?
Mr. Sedita,
Yes.
Mr. Homechak,
Yes.
Mr. Sietsma,
Yes.
Mr. Boonstra,
Yes.
Mr. Alexandru,
Yes.
Ms. Bogdansky,
Yes.
Mayor Rubenstein,
Yes.
Chairman Fortunato.
Yes. Okay, that's all the matters on for public hearing this evening are the continuation of the WAD matter, which is 490 Vance Avenue. We had begun to hear that at the January meeting, so that's on for continuation. We got I know we got a revised landscaping plan on that. And I believe there's some minor changes also to the architectural on it, which the architect, I assume, will go through on that. Anybody have any questions or comments on that? We'll hear that. That'll be the first matter on at the public hearing. And then the next matter will be the matter we just deemed complete, 802 Albemarle Street. Both of the applications are before the board as for soil movement excess of 100 cubic yards. Anybody have any discussion on that item? Okay, if not, then,
Mr. Chairman,
yes. Mr.
yeah,
Sethi.
I have some comments on the landscape plan, if we want to discuss it now, or we want to discuss it at the public.
Probably be appropriate to discuss it at the hearing,
Okay.
because I assume the engineer is going to bring us through the changes, and then we can address them directly with the engineer, Glenn. That probably
Okay.
makes most sense.
No problem.
Okay, great. Okay, if there's no other business on, anything else to be discussed, then we'll pick it up at 8 o'clock. We've got about 10 minutes. Can I have a motion to adjourn the?
Rob,
Yes.
Chairman, if I may, just to be clear, the township is bringing another application for a minor subdivision to the planning board, so everyone knows. That's the Maple Lake property. And we had talked about a special meeting, but that may not be necessary now. And it would be on the the regular March business meeting for a minor subdivision of the Maple Lake property, so the town can acquire the 21 acres that we're looking to buy there. The application is complete. Maureen, do you have the application at this point?
Yes, I received it, what's today, Wednesday, Monday afternoon.
Okay, I didn't say it was complete. It has been submitted.
It's been submitted.
Yeah, it's been submitted. Maureen, do we know what else might be on that agenda? It's a little early to tell, I know that.
Well, assuming we get through the 2 applications this evening without having to carry them, if the 225 Van Houten matter comes up, that would be on for March. Other than that, there's nothing.
So far.
Right, so far.
Okay. Chairman, I would just, and we can talk about this, I would ask that, depending on what's on, it would be good if we could be sure to hear the township application on the 10th. This has to do with a grant from the county that we're asking for an extension on to purchase the property. The grant expires next month, and we've asked for an extension. And if we can show that it has in fact been approved by the planning board, that will help our argument in getting an extension granted. So if we could go on first, or at least be assured that it's going to be heard, I'd appreciate that.
Sure, Rudy. What we'll do is I'll talk to Maureen in a week or two and see where we're at with any other items that are on. Like it says, it appears that the Kale matter is in limbo now, so we don't even know if that's going to come back. And even if it is on, we can prioritize the.
Yeah, I would think in that matter, I think that would be the case. Yeah. Thank you.
And I think if Kale were to come back, frankly, it would only be for completeness anyway.
That's right.
So
It would be.
We would not be hearing the application itself. So since the Wyckoff application is the only thing that's been filed so far for hearing, I would assume it'd be first on the agenda anyway, provided we get through these 2 applications tonight.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Rudy. Anybody else have anything before we adjourn for the work session? No? Can I have a motion to adjourn the work session? We'll be back in 10 minutes.
Motion.
Second, Mike.
That was George and Mike. Maureen.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right. We'll see you at 8 o'clock, guys.
All right.
Please be sure to mute your computer
Yes,
while
please.
you're away.
Rob,
I had 7:59, Maureen.
okay, I just wanted to mention one thing to you. Let me stop sharing this screen. One of the neighbors, I can't see that she has called in. One of the neighbors for 490 Vance emailed me this afternoon and said she didn't know if she was going to be able to join the meeting. So she just emailed one comment / question to me.
Okay.
So when you open to the public, I guess
We'll just remind me of it and we'll
I
have
will.
that read in.
Okay.
Is it long?
No, it's basically the same type of question with the drainage that you guys have been discussing. So we'll
Okay.
see how it goes.
Okay. All right. I guess we have 8 o'clock. Is everybody back on?
Not yet. I think all of the board members are back.
Okay. Well, it's going to take me a few minutes to read this anyway. I'm
True.
going to read the Open Public Meetings Act again. So, all right, everybody, welcome back. Please take notice that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, JSA 10:4-6, at second, and the consideration of Executive Order Number 103, issued by Governor Murphy on March 9, 2020, declaring a state of emergency in the state of New Jersey, the Planning Board of the Township of Wyckoff does hereby notify the public that to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens, the meeting of the Planning Board of the Township of Wyckoff, scheduled for Wednesday, February 10th, 2021, will be conducted virtually through the Zoom video conferencing application, and it will be live streamed on the Township of Wyckoff's YouTube channel. The work session was scheduled for 7:30, has been completed, and the public business meeting is beginning now at 8 o'clock. These meetings are implemented to allow members of the public to observe the meeting via live streaming and to provide the ability to comment during the periods for public comment during the meeting through Zoom telephone call-in technology. Joining the meeting by telephone will be utilized as security against the sharing of inappropriate video content. General instructions regarding access to the meeting are posted on the Wyckoff website's homepage at www.wyckoff-nj.com as a news item. The February 10th, 2021 public meeting of the Wyckoff Planning Board is now in session. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting appears on our annual schedule of meetings. A copy of said annual schedule has been posted on the bulletin board in Memorial Town Hall. A copy has been filed with the Township Clerk, the Record, the Ridgewood News, and the North Jersey Herald and News, all newspapers with general circulation throughout the Township of Wyckoff. At least 48 hours prior to this meeting, the agenda thereof was similarly posted, filed, and mailed to said newspapers. All applicants are hereby reminded that your application, if approved, may be subject to the terms, conditions, and payment of the affordable housing development fee requirements of the township. Information can be obtained from the Code of the Township of Wyckoff, Chapter 113-8 on the township's website, www.wyckoff-nj.com. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I have a flag here. Oh, you got one? Thanks. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Okay, we'll just quickly go through what we completed at the work session. We approved the January 13th. I'm sorry, we need a roll call. Maureen, go ahead. Get ahead of myself.
That's okay. Mr. Sedita,
Here.
Ms. Conlin, Mr. Homechak,
Present.
Mr. Fisher, Mr. Sietsma,
Here.
Mr. Boonstra,
Rudy, you're on mute.
Here.
Mr. Alexandru,
Here.
Ms. Bogdansky. Here. Mayor Rubenstein,
Here.
Chairman Fortunato.
Here. Okay, so at the work session, we approved the January 13th, 2021 work session and regular business minutes. We voted to approve the 90-day extension request by the Township of Wykoff for the approval of the minor subdivision, so they could have 90 days additional time to record the perfected deeds. And we deemed the matter of the Dimitriakou matter, 802 Albemarle Street, complete. That matter will be the second item on the agenda this evening. The Gary Kale matter, which is 225 Van Houten Avenue, was withdrawn or adjourned. We're not sure which, but it will not be heard this evening. It may come back at the March, what's the date of the March meeting, Maureen?
March 10th.
March 10th. So it may or may not come back on March 10th. And if it does come back, it would be at that point for completeness only. Which brings us to our public hearing. The first matter on is the continuation of the Awad matter, which is 490 Vance Avenue. And I see Mr. Suresti's here and he can move forward with his application. How you doing, Mr. Suresti?
Doing well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a continuation of the Awad hearing, which was held on January 13. At that time, there were recommendations made by Mr. DeGennaro with reference to revising the landscape plan and some other issues with reference to the sanitary and to the septic design. Perry Frenzel, our engineer, has submitted a revised plan dated January 29, 2021. And I can call Perry as my first witness to review those revisions with the board. Kevin, do you want to swear him in on this?
Well, he's already sworn in, isn't he?
He did testify in the last.
Okay.
hearing.
I don't think he needs to be sworn again, and he's already qualified as an expert.
Right, okay, thank you. Perry, if you will, referring to your January 29 plan, would you want to give an overview to the board as to the revisions that were made? And maybe you want to start with the septic design as well as the sanitary disposal. You have to unmute, Perry. Perry, can you hear me?
It's like he's speaking, but he must be on mute.
Yeah.
He is.
We can't hear you, sir.
Alternate A on your keyboard will unmute.
Well done. Hold
Rob, does the administrator have the ability to unmute him?
Probably not. Maureen, you don't have any
Just
control
let me
over
have
those
his cell
people, do
number.
you?
I'm calling him now, so let me see if I can get him on.
Just write it on a piece of paper and hold it up. Unmute.
Oh, right.
It's pretty simple. I can't do it on my screen.
That's high tech, huh? Hold on.
Yeah, unmute. You got to unmute your computer. Oh,
Unless he's having problems. Because he testified last month.
yeah, he did.
You should have known, right?
What's his first name?
Perry.
Harry.
Barry, right.
Yeah, Perry, you got to unmute. You got to unmute your computer. We can't hear you. Okay.
There you go, Barry. Knock yourself out.
Yeah.
Well, if you like, we can move on to our
That's
architect.
right. He called in last month, didn't he? I don't even think he was on video last month, was he?
No, he wasn't. He was on audio only last.
He was on
month, right.
audio only. Does he want to?
Yes, you're right.
Does he want to do it that way again, or you want to move on to your next witness?
All of the panelists were invited with the capability. I have to click a box and you all get the invite at the same time, and everybody has the capability given by me to be on audio and video. He just needs to
Unmute.
unmute.
Let me say something. There's no way that anybody else can do it though, right?
Usually, like I have it at work, Rob, and the like I can go on and unmute somebody if it's my meeting.
I don't even see his name on the list here, which is really weird.
If you click on his box, Maureen, sometimes you could just click on where his name is, where you see it, and then unmute him if you have that power.
The only thing it's letting me do is ask him to unmute.
Gotcha.
Um,
You must have bad handwriting, Rudy, because he couldn't read your note.
I can try it again.
The only other thing we do at work a lot of times is I would suggest that he logs off and logs back on.
It's okay to me.
but Perry, hover your mouse over the frame that your picture is in, and a little blue box will pop up that says unmute.
He's actually hovering the
No.
mouse
No,
over the screen right now.
your cursor. I don't know what to do.
You want to have him call in, Mr. Suresti, like you
I
did
think
last week? Last month, rather?
Do you want to call, Perry, do you want to call in? Yeah, he's going to call in.
That's fine.
I just sent him a direct message explaining to him how to do it. Hopefully he could figure it out from what I typed him.
And yeah, I found him on the panelist list, and
Well, let's
It's
give him
not
a minute.
not letting me unmute him.
If he either doesn't call in or can't unmute, then Mr. Suresti, you can go on to your other witness and we'll try to figure it out later.
Yeah, okay, so I can call Eamon Sadra. Why don't we do that? We're not having any success here.
Is he on? Is he still on?
Yeah, he's there.
Okay. All right, well, maybe he'll figure it out in the meantime. You gonna call your architect, Mr. Suresti?
I'm going to call my architect next. Let me just let Perry know and I'll let him know. Perry, I'm going to call Eamon Cedro now, and then maybe in the interim you could figure it out. Okay.
Tell him to
We'll get
look
back
for the microphone with the red line and hover on it and see if he can click it.
Tell him to find someone under the age of 15.
George, why don't you drive over to his house in the meantime?
Yeah, do you see them?
Serena, you should mute your microphone, then you could talk to him.
Yeah. So do you see there should be an icon there where you can click on. Okay, so then we'll pick up with you. I'm going to call the architect now, okay? And I'll get back to you. Okay. Let's move on.
Is Mr. Sedra
Yeah, he's here.
available?
Amen.
Okay, I'd like to swear him in.
Yeah.
Mr. Sedra, would you raise your right hand? And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes,
All
I
truth
do.
and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, can you state your name, your business name, and your business address?
Sure. My name is Ayman Sedra. My business name is AS Architecture Design LLC, and the business address is 188 Eagle Rock Avenue, Suite 5, Roseland, New Jersey.
Okay.
Amen, if you wouldn't mind, would you give us the benefit of your educational background?
Yes, I graduated from Egypt from a school called Alminia University, Faculty of Engineering, Architecture Department. I graduated in 1999.
And are you licensed in New Jersey?
Yes, I am. And also I am licensed in the state of Tennessee and state of Pennsylvania.
Now, have you ever testified before any boards? Have you come before any boards and provided testimony, architectural testimony?
Yes, I did, to name a few, Belleville, Nutley, East Rutherford, Caldwell, Wayne, City of Union City, and Montclair.
Okay, there were basically, Amen, three areas that the board was interested in. One was the elevations on all sides of the building.
All right, just so we have it on the record, Chairman, we're going to deem Mr. Sedra an expert in the area of architecture.
That's correct. You can proceed, Mr.
Yeah,
Suresti.
there were three areas that the board was interested in. One was the elevations of the building on all four sides. The second was the height to the ridge from the grade of the property. And second and thirdly was the materials that were used for the exterior dwelling, the veneer.
Okay, I'm gonna start. Sure, go ahead.
We want to start with the elevations and try to review that for the board.
Sure, I'm gonna start with the elevations. Looking at the front of the building, the left side corner of the building has an elevation of 93 feet. And the right side corner of the building has an elevation of 95. Now, when you look at the right side elevation, again, the left side corner is 90 feet and the right side corner is 92. The left side elevation, the left side corner is 92 feet and the right side corner is 93. The rear elevation, left side corner is 92 and the right side corner is 92. So by looking at this elevation, the lowest elevation is 92, is elevation 92. That's the lowest grade elevation in our project here. That's the highest one is 95. Now to move to the building height, the building height is 35 feet. We have a 35 feet of a building height measured from the lowest point of grade to the highest point of grade. Again, the lowest point of grade reads elevation 92, and the highest point of roof is 127 feet. So when you minus 92 minus 127, it will give us a 35 feet. And that's the height that we have on the building.
Oh, would that be applicable to all four sides of the elevation of the building?
Yes, the height, the maximum height required by code is 35 feet, and we are meeting the requirement of the height based on the definition of the building height measured from the lowest point of the grade to the highest point of the roof.
Okay, and what about the materials used in this particular dwelling?
The style of this building is a style called French Chateau, and it's known for its symmetrical arrangement where you have the facade balance on each side of the main entry of the house. And the materials that we used stucco and stone. And also we used a base. At the base of the building, we have a stone base wraps around the whole structure with stone veneer being on three sides of the building, which is the left side, the right side, and the back. and cast stone being as the base for the front elevation.
Okay. I have no further questions of the witness if the board would like to ask him any other questions.
Mr. Sedra, what's the total size of the house?
Total size of the building, the footprint of the building is 3,942. Now, that's considerably the first floor and the garage. The total size, I'll give also the second floor as a separate number. The second floor is 2,790. So 3,942 plus 2,790 is 6,732 square feet.
That does include the garage?
That includes the garage, but the second floor has two open spaces, which is the family room and the entry foyer. And in a normal case, we count that once. We count it as part of the first floor. That's why you see the first floor number is bigger than the second floor.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. And there's a basement with the house as well, right?
There is a basement, correct.
Any board members have any questions of Mr. Sedra, the architect?
I see windows on the garage side of the building. In the roof, in the attic, I guess. Can you tell me about those windows? Is that occupiable space there?
Yes, that's a livable attic.
It's a what?
It's a livable attic.
A livable attic.
Yeah.
How much? All right, and that space is included in your 6,732 square feet?
No, it will add some more square footage.
Do we know how much? I would like to know how much.
I'm just, sorry, just jumping in here on you, Mr. Boonstra, but livable attic meaning a third story?
No, it's a half a story. It's a half a story. Actually, it's not. It's a small area that used for.
So
actually, I said that it's not a livable attic. It's unfinished attic for storage.
Okay,
I apologize. I just opened the plan now to see it.
Is
It's
it
a
walk
small-
upstairs or pull downstairs?
Actually, there is a spiral stair that's accessible from the laundry to this space. And the size of this space is 13'9" by about 52 feet, 52.7½. And
Okay, so-
we have it on the plan as unfinished attic for storage. There is a mechanical room up there for that hosts the furnace, but I apologize. I had to open the drawing to look at it.
Sure. I'm maybe talking a little bit out of my expertise, but I know that there's a building code requirement as far as the low cord, the ceiling height.
Correct.
And basically, you would be considered a mezzanine, and there's a certain percentage of finished area that's permitted to qualify that's predicated based on the second floor finished area.
Exactly, yes. They count it as 1/3 of the floor below. That's what they call it, half story. But we're meeting the requirement of the code, and also this space is not going to be used for as a livable space.
Is it conditioned? Will it be conditioned?
It's not going to be conditioned. It just hosts the mechanical room and just for storage. It's not going to be finished by any means.
No sheetrock?
No sheetrock. It's unfinished. It's called on the construction document plan unfinished.
Okay. Well, you suggested a third story livable space, so that piqued my attention. So
yeah,
That's
sure.
why I asked, Mark, that's why I asked the question here, because I see the 3 windows. Now it's on the garage side, but there's no change in the grade. So My question is, does that violate our three-story look ordinance? I would be happier to see those windows not there. Then there's no question about it.
I mean, the reason we put those windows, they match.
Then there's also no question that it would become living space.
We could stipulate as to the fact that it would not be a living space, so I'd rather not remove the windows.
The fact that I had to ask your architect about that space gives me, your suggestion, while I appreciate it, I don't take a lot of comfort in it.
Well, I realize that, but I just think.
You don't need those windows here, you don't. It's on the side of the house. You don't need them.
Those windows wouldn't be visible from any other location than from the garage side, because you got two peaks on each side that would basically block that dormer from the back and the front. So it doesn't appear to, aside from the garage side, it doesn't appear to have any aesthetic use either. I mean, that I could see. I mean,
Right.
you know.
Right.
Is there a reason why? Is there a reason why the windows were put there, Mr. Cedra?
Yes, it's just from the style of this building, this French chateau style, known for having dormers on the roof plane. They're also known for having like big scale roofs. But you know, I mean, if this is a problem, I suppose we can remove them from the site. But I have to run that by my client just to make sure he's comfortable with that. I can maybe.
That would go for the other
quickly.
side. That would go for the other side as well.
And
Other
how about
dormers on the other side as well?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're also shown at the front
Dormers
and the
on both
back.
sides.
Well, the fronts are different because they're separate dormers. It's not a bank of windows.
Okay,
The fronts
So
are different in mine.
I suppose the front and the back is okay. Am I correct?
I don't see what the back looks like. Oh, I see. Yeah. Because we also have a prohibition on a three-story building, and those three windows together come very close to, in my mind anyway, running afoul of that prohibition. The two separate dormers, far apart from one another, do not, in my view. On the front and the back.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you're right.
Can I put a quick call to my client? I mean, if that's a decision that you guys like to remove those dormers, I'd like to run it by him quickly. Is that okay?
I mean, can I say something here? I think you can actually put them, if you want, just for aesthetics, without actually having them as useful as real windows.
How about if we make them smaller, or maybe make the scale of those dormer to match to some degree what we have on the front and the back?
To the chairman's point, why do you need them on the sides of the house?
I think it's just a look he's looking for, Rudy.
It just, yeah, it helps the
I think
look and it
actually
helps the
I
style.
don't
of the
disagree
building.
with the look, because just to have a flat, roof with no windows there might look a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the scale of the roof is a big roof. It needs something to address the roof, and that's why we put the dormer. But if the scale is an issue, I suppose we can maybe make it a little bit smaller, or maybe have 2 windows instead of 3 windows.
I would prefer to see them lined up together.
Can I ask a question about the entrance to this attic space? I think you mentioned that it was a spiral staircase.
Correct.
What is I was hard to see from the plans. Is it open from the spiral staircase to the attic?
The spiral states around the stair that you can walk up the attic through it. It will end up with it's kind of like an open, or we could put a door on it. We could put a door on top of the spiral, or under the spiral from the second floor. Let me look up the plan. I think we have a door. located on the second floor.
So
Just give
I have
me-
the question.
Rob, can I just finish real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Melissa.
If it's open to this third story and it's not, the attic area is not going to be finished and heating and cooled, how does that work with having an open access to the second floor from this spiral staircase?
Now, we can put a door on it, either at the bottom, we have room to do that at the bottom of the stair, where it's located on the second floor, or we can put a door on the top part as well, in the attic, just to control the heating and cooling of the second floor.
Well, to Melissa's point somewhat, I mean, if this is going to be used for storage, if you have a spiral staircase there, a spiral staircase is not practical for storage purposes because you got to carry stuff up and down the spiral staircase. I would think a spiral staircase would be more used if you were accessing livable space. If this was actually for storage only, I would expect either a pull down stair or even a walk up stairway. So honestly, that raises some question in my mind as to what the use would be, and somewhat backs up what Melissa is saying as well.
It was requested by the owner, but I mean, I agree with you. Maybe we can turn it to a pull down stair if that will satisfy the requirement.
I'm sorry, Chairman,
If they
the more testimony I hear on this matter, the more convinced I am that those windows should not be there at all. That lends itself to livable space.
Mr. Chairman, somebody's got to turn off a mic because I'm getting a lot of reverb. I can't make out what people are saying.
It seemed to have gone away, so maybe it was you, Melissa, because you just muted yourself. Okay, well, you know what? Before you contact your client, why don't, regarding the windows and the staircase, why don't we see if there's any other issues, and then you could contact him at one time.
Sure.
Excuse me, can I say something? I'm the client. I'm Mary Awad.
It's up to your attorney.
Yes, I have no problem with her speaking.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'd like to have her sworn in.
You have to be sworn in, Mary.
All right.
Raise your right hand. Do you
Raise-
swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Mary Rose Awad, 509 Spencer Drive, Wyckoff, New Jersey, and I'm the property owner on 490 Vance in Wyckoff also.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I just want to say,
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hanley, does the witness need to be live on the video stream?
I think that they do, yes.
She's not on.
oh, all right here. Oh,
Oh, there you are.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
all right. I just want to say the third floor, the attic, if it's going to be a problem, I don't want, we could do the pull up, we could do the pull down stairs. It doesn't matter to me. I just thought spiral will be, I'm not an art, like, I don't know. I just want the least amount of space possible. And I thought it'll look pretty. I don't care at this point looking pretty anymore. If it could be just one of those pull down stairs, I don't mind. It's going to be a complete attic, put Christmas trees up there. If not, we don't have to put anything up there, and we have enough garage space and whatever. At this point, it doesn't matter if we make the windows smaller, no window, whatever. At this point, I don't mind. I don't mind. We just need to, whatever it is, we might want to make you guys happy so that we could just move forward. That's all. So if it's a pull down stair, there's no problem with that. I'm good with a pull down stair. If the window's on the side of the house, I just think it looks pretty, but there's absolutely no way anybody's going to be living or even going up there at this point. I mean, at all, I have a pregnant older daughter in Pennsylvania. They'll come and just visit. I mean, we have enough space to not put somebody in an attic, number one. So if the windows could stay with a little bit like smaller, just sort of look pretty on the outside, okay. But if it's going to be a problem, then I don't mind taking it off. It's fine.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just be heard, if she's agreed to have a pull down staircase, I don't think it's going to be a livable space. So maybe the window issue we can pass on the window issue. I don't know whether the window, it's an aesthetic element to the house. And my thinking is if he's willing to agree to a pull down staircase, no one's going to live up there. So I don't think you'd have to worry about the windows. And I think it just, rather than detract from the aesthetic design of the home, if the windows can remain and she's agreeable to a pull down staircase as a stipulation and condition of approval, then that's agreeable to the applicant. And we can move on any other issues that may be before the board.
What do you think, Rudy?
Look, if I'm the lone voice in the wilderness here, I'm not going to spend all night on it.
Well, I mean, I think that sounds to me like a reasonable accommodation.
When you do this long enough, you develop certain
Instinct.
You get a feel for some instincts. Yeah, thank you. So, just to protect the neighbors in the township, and having been a fireman for 27 years, I always try to be cautious.
Yeah, I understand, Rudy.
Third stories are not good places. So
I'm just wondering if some windows are going to stay and others are not. I'm not quite sure how the elimination of some of them is. In other words, if someone's going to go up there, if there's some windows, I don't know that it's going to make a difference if there's 2, 4, 6, 8, maybe. I'm just not quite sure.
I agree with you, Rob.
Okay, I'm not going to.
Go ahead, Rudy.
No, I said I'm not going to spend all night on it, which we have a lot to do yet.
What is the you changed the material for the roof? It's going to be
Yes,
shingle now?
yes, it's going to be asphalt shingle.
Okay. Could you just go over briefly the other changes you had emailed regarding
Sure.
the plan?
One of them was a typo, which is for the word corbel. It wasn't spelled correctly on the sheets.
Right.
The other one was changing the roofing material from cedar shingles or cedar shakes to asphalt shingle. And the third one, I am actually taking that back because the building height is established based on the zoning requirements or the zoning code. It reads from the lowest grade, not from the average grade. And we revised that in another plan. I'm gonna send maybe tomorrow to Maureen, so you guys have the revised plans for that.
Okay. And it's your understanding that this structure is in compliance with all of the ordinances as designed?
Yes.
And there's no need for any variances of any kind?
Yes,
That's your understanding too, Mr. DeGennaro, correct?
Can you repeat the question, please?
That as designed, this house does not require any variances?
Correct. Unless and as he testified that it's not a third story, so it would not. If it's
Okay.
at 2.5 stories with a mezzanine, it's okay.
Okay. So any approval that would be given would be, we'd have to put in the resolution that it's not livable space and it couldn't become livable space or it would be in violation of the ordinance, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions of the architect, Mr. Cedra?
I would like him to describe, if he could, the stucco veneer and just, I'm not sure just what's what here. I see brick, it looks like over some of the windows and lintels over others. Could you just describe, because this is a big house, that's a lot of stucco if it's all going to be stucco.
yeah, it depends on which elevation you're looking at. Some of the elevations, they have, well, they're all mixed between the stucco and the stone.
Let's start with the front. Let's start
Like
with
the front elevation where we have the 2 towers, these are stone towers, cultured stone towers.
Yeah, okay.
And
So
then the
stone's going to
center,
be on the entire tower. It only shows the portions of it, but it would be the
yes,
whole.
exactly. It will be the whole tower stoned. And
And that's around the front door too, the archway and all around the front door is stone?
exactly, the front entry also in the back wall, we have a stone veneer.
But the peak of the front entrance is stucco, do I have that correct?
Correct, stucco, and you have the word stucco on the
Is this
on the
like
peak.
gray stucco or white stucco or?
We haven't decided the colors with the client yet.
The stucco is going to be a block type of stucco, though. It's not going to
Yes.
be, it's
With-
going to have a block
With the
design.
wire mesh, yes, like a real stucco.
Yeah, it's like gonna be like stucco.
But there's going to be, it's going to appear to be blocks. Is that, that's what you're
Oh,
showing?
yes, that's the decoration that we have, and yes, exactly. It will
So
look
it's
like
not going
a
to be an
block.
unbroken, it's not going to be an unbroken stucco. It's going to.
No.
Okay.
I mean, it's a texture on the stucco. They can do this with the stucco textures. They,
Right. Okay.
Now, I see on the corners you have like a keying effect on it.
yeah, we have what's called coins. That's
Pointing effect, yeah.
yeah, that's an area where it projects a little bit from the corner.
Is that gonna be a different finish than the stucco?
It will be the finish of the stucco, but we will project it out a little bit more. Maybe we'll do it in a different color. We haven't resolved all the colors yet with the client, but
And the archways over the windows, they're gonna be brick or stone or what?
it depends where you have it. On a stone wall, we're gonna do them out of stone. Where you have and in some areas we have them made out of stucco as well. Where you have the stone, like where you have the entryway, the entryway, that's a big opening, and no matter what you do with the stone, is not gonna look good. So we try to do like a stucco pilasters with the key stones on top. Just to give it some dimension, because this is a huge opening at the front entry. But in a normal wall where we have stucco walls, like the side of the building, we're trimming this with the stucco trim, just a normal stucco trim where we have stucco walls. And again, when we have stone walls, we'll trim that with the stone, unless if the opening of the stone is big, like what happened at the rear of the house or the front of the house, where we have big area of glazing or big area of open glazing. We trim it with the stucco just to get it some depth and dimension to it.
Are you I'm sorry. Are you gonna have lighting under the eaves or the soffits? That's like downward directed lighting?
We don't really actually have a big projection. This projection is like 1 foot projection, and it has some corbels on it. And no,
But some of these big new homes have that lighting, that down projected lighting, like every.
No, well, we'll have just lighting where we have like the entry of the house. We'll have lighting that comes down from the massive.
The entry, I'm talking about the perimeter of the home under the roof.
No, not in the roof plane, but on the side of the building where we have the garage. Yes, where we might have like a soffit lighting, or maybe like a wall sconce lighting on the side.
That would be on that little rain roof on the garage, or that would be on the.
Exactly, the small roof that we have projecting from the garage.
I'm asking about on the main roof for the house.
No, the main roof is we don't really have room to do any lighting in there.
Under the eaves, right? Okay.
Yeah, I mean the eaves, they have those corbels and they're taking the whole space.
All right.
Anybody else have any other questions of the architect?
It's going to loom over the neighbors, but I guess doesn't need variances, so, okay.
Okay. Mr. Soresti, I guess if you don't have anything, there doesn't appear to be any other questions from the board of Mr. Cedra. If you want to try getting your engineer back on, we can try that, I guess.
Yeah, Perry, are you available?
Can you hear me, Sam?
Yes.
Okay, success.
We're on board, okay. So Perry, we're going back to the plan. This is the revised plan of January 29, 2021.
Right.
Do you want to give us a brief overview of both the septic design, this was one of the recommendations, and also the sanitary disposal, the issues that were raised by Mr. DeGennaro?
Sure. There were a few items that we were asked to address regarding the septic plan primarily. It was a number of notes for clarifications for things like the type of material that would be used for the septic bed itself. There were no changes to the location of the septic bed or the proposed septic tank, nothing of that nature. It was all minor notes concerning how the system would be constructed, when it was going to be inspected, and things of that nature. So that was the general gist of the changes to the septic plan.
Okay, and what about the landscaping? That was a major issue here.
After hearing the board's comments the last time, we made a number of changes to the landscaping plan. Along the northerly and southerly borders in the area of the sides of the house, we originally had arborvitae that were rather closely spaced, and at the suggestion of the board, those have been moved apart, extended basically to the ends of the retaining wall, or as close to the ends of the retaining wall as we can get on the northerly side, and the same number of trees at the same spacing on the southerly side. After conversation with Mr. DeGennaro about the species we had originally chosen, we went back and forth. He made one suggestion. We did some research, and we found a species second from the bottom on the landscaping schedule, actually called Can Western Cedar, which is a form of arborvitae that we believe fits more appropriately in the space and is deer resistant. That was the primary concern for changing the species, was the impact of the deer on arborvitae. Some species are like candy to them. There was a suggestion that we add some deciduous trees to the plan, especially because of the number of trees that were going to be removed. We've added 8 deciduous trees within the site, all of which will at maturity be rather large species. In the back corner of the site, that would be the southeasterly corner, we've added 3 oaks amongst the other 3 trees that are in that area to give that a shady, quiet corner. To the northerly side, we've added 2 lindens and a columnar red oak in the vicinity of the air conditioning equipment, and in between that and the septic system to create some sort of landscape interest in what was an unadorned area of that portion of the site. And then in the front of the property, in the infield, we added 2 columnar red maples on either side of the infield, basically to frame the front opening of the house and to provide some vertical interest in that particular area, which is pretty flat. Those were pretty much the changes that we had made. I have to apologize. I neglected one comment in conveying the requested changes to the architect, but it will be done. There was a concern raised about the 30-inch tree that straddles the property line at the easterly end of the retaining wall along the northern side of the property. What I would do in that vicinity would be to try to maintain 15 feet from the center of that tree to avoid any serious impact on the roots of that tree. And what I would suggest is that, and I'll run this past Mr. DeGennaro separately as well, come down as far as the new seepage pit, make a 90-degree bend into the property, and terminate the wall in that area some way. There would be some minor regrading where we cut the wall off, but either we do a 90-degree or a dog leg in that area. And again, give that 30-inch tree 15 feet of undisturbed area around it. That is the one correction to the plan that I need to make.
Thank you, Perry. Is there any questions of the board of Mr. Frenzel?
Yeah, Mr. Frenzel, I see you added another seepage pit. So that will capture, I guess, additional runoff. Was that done in response to the concerns of the neighbors?
That was done. I had a conversation with Mr. DeGennaro about the drainage and the baseline for drainage on the property. And it was his opinion that that we should assume the baseline to be that the lot is an undeveloped lot, no structure on it, and that being the most conservative baseline. From there, the increase in drainage would be totally from the addition of impervious surfaces. And rather than taking any credit for the house that used to be there, we took the entire lot as an undeveloped lot, again, the most conservative approach. And we've added the third seepage pit to accommodate 100% of the impervious area that's going to be added. This will be a very significant reduction in the amount of runoff from the site, a far better condition than what exists under the current condition.
And an improvement over what you had before at the last hearing?
Significantly, yes.
Okay. And is it also your position that with regard to the trees along the back property line, that those would also help with any type of runoff? Or would that affect any type of runoff onto the neighbor?
Certainly. The more trees that we have in an area like that, the more the roots are going to suck up the moisture. That's a relatively flat area of the backyard, so it's going to tend to run slowly across that area, if it does at all. And the trees will certainly help in soaking up a good portion of that runoff.
Okay.
We see no negative impact on the neighbor from the implementation of the plan as we presented it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have some.
Yeah, I was going to say, Glenn, I know you had some comments. Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Frenzel, overall, the landscape plan laid out very nicely. I would like to talk about the arborvitae screening on both sides of the property. We had recommended 6 to 7 foot green giant arborvitae, 6 foot on center. The variety that you're suggesting is actually a dwarf variety, the can. So we're trying to screen, the neighbors, give the neighbors a little screening from this house. I would recommend that we use the green giant arborvitae. Not this variety.
If that's your preference, we certainly have no problem with that. Our hesitance with the green giant was the mature size. It becomes quite a large tree. It can be 30 plus feet high, and it can have a spread of 15 to 20 feet. But again, if that's the preference of the board, we have absolutely no problem with that.
I think the preference of the board would be to get the largest plants that we can in there for the neighbors. I mean, if you spread those 6 feet apart, they would mature nicely in there.
So again, just so I get it right, it's 6 to 7 foot at planting, green giant arborvitae, 6 feet apart.
That's what we recommend last month. Yes.
Not a problem.
Okay. Also, the deciduous trees, the shade trees.
Yes.
We did recommend 3-inch caliber trees.
We can
Want to go
change
2.5?
we
You
can
wanna go-
change that to 3 to 3.5.
Right. Yes.
Not a problem.
Okay. And can we change the species of the oak to the northern red oak rather than the Nuttall? That's really right on the border of a zone. It's more of a southern tree.
Okay, so noted. That's an easy change.
Okay. And we should use the straight Norway spruce, not the red cone Norway spruce for the screening in the back.
What's that called, Glenn?
It's the Picea abies Norway spruce, not the red cone Norway spruce.
Picea abies?
Yes, Norway spruce. No red cone.
Okay, not a problem.
Okay, otherwise everything else worked out nicely, I think.
So just to get it straight, Glenn, in thinking towards a resolution. So to change the Nuttall oak to a northern red oak, you'd said, correct?
Correct.
Change the red cedar cans to green giant arborvitaes, 6 to 7 feet high, 6 feet apart.
Right.
And what was the tree you wanted changed to 3-inch caliber?
All the
three trees.
all the shade trees should be changed to 3-inch caliber, 3.5 inch.
All the deciduous trees?
Yeah, all the shade trees,
All shade trees.
the lindens, the oak, and the maple.
And was there anything else? Was there one other thing? Oh, no, the arborvitaes.
And the Norway spruce.
No, so those 3 items.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions? Appears to be a significant improvement over the prior plan, and certainly has addressed some of the drainage issues that was a concern mainly to the neighbors. Anybody else? No? Okay. Do you have any other
No, that's our case right there.
do you have anything further, Mr. Severus? Do you have any
No,
closing statement, anything along those lines?
no further witnesses.
Okay.
Do you want to, Mr. Chairman, do you want to read in the neighbor's statement?
Yes, and it's my mistake, actually. We did not open it up to public discussion at the time for the architect, which we should have done. So why don't we open it up now to questions before we read the statement? Let me open it up to live questions of either the architect or the engineer. Is anybody on the line, Maureen?
Yes, Doug Messinio, but I feel like he had emailed me that he was going to call in regarding the Albemarle. Let me just, I asked him to unmute. Doug, Mr. Messinio?
He's on for us, I believe.
Okay, that's, I thought so. Okay. So, Mr. Bolick?
Yes. No, I guess I don't have any questions. I think you guys did a good job of covering the kind of things that the neighbors would be concerned about. I hadn't even stopped to think about the effect of this if they had lighting under the roof, which would light the whole thing up at night. And I'm glad that's not being planned. And it sounds like you've tried to address the runoff issues, which concerned me and the Goldman's next door. So I hope you're right on that.
Well, certainly it's an improvement over what was previously provided to us. So,
right.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bullock. Have anything further?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Maureen, anybody else before we read the written statement?
No one else.
Okay. So why don't you read the written statement into the record, please? And as to who it's from and her address, please.
It's from Jill Goldman. She had actually called in last month. She lives at 495 Berkeley Drive, which backs up to the property at 490 Vance. She said, my only concern is the possibility of a drainage issue that could flow into my backyard. So many trees are being taken down and only small trees are required to be replanted. I understand the engineer has to certify that there will be no increase in water flow to my property and has created a plan for such. However, I want to know what happens if, and hopefully only an if, when the project is completed and there is continued drainage, what will my recourse be? I would like to have on the record that this is my concern.
Does she indicate whether she saw the revised landscaping plan or not? What's the date on that, Maureen?
It was today at 1:20 p.m.
Okay. Mr. Hanley, do you want to address that? I mean, it's really more of a legal question than a question for the board. Do you want to address her concern as to if in the event in the future there are runoff issues? Is that something you feel comfortable addressing?
Well, I don't feel comfortable providing legal advice to someone who's not my client in this situation.
Her remedy, I assume, would be to contact the town and to
Well,
avail
maybe
herself of all
contact the
available.
town, and then if she did not get a satisfaction from the town, she would have to possibly pursue a legal action.
Okay, I don't know if Mrs. Goldman had an opportunity to review the landscape plan, the revised landscape plan, which certainly addresses the runoff issues. It certainly provides for more recapture of runoff than the prior plan did, and it does address a lot of the concerns with regard to the removal of plantings. There's a lot more plantings being replaced, and Mr. Sietsma, who's our resident expert on the board, seems pretty comfortable with the subject to the changes he'd suggested, the species and the placement. So, I mean, I guess that's about the best we can do with her not being actually present. Is anybody else, Maureen, before we close for to the public? Anybody else?
No, Mr. Chairman, no one else.
Okay, thank you. So we'll close the public comment section, and board members, does anybody have any comments or questions? Why don't we start with you, Rudy?
No, the only thing I would comment on, seeing as Mr. Bullock picked up on what I said, that it's clear that there's no down lighting around the perimeter of the roof on this building. That should be in the resolution based on the architect's testimony.
No downlighting, right? There would be a pull-down stairway, stairway to the attic.
Now, that's my only comment at this point.
There would be attic would not be used for living space, for storage only. I think besides the concerns Mr. Sietsma addressed with regard to the landscaping, I don't know, was there anything else? There was the lighting, and
We
then
had the retaining wall, Mr. Fortunato. The retaining wall, we had agreed to alter the retaining wall on the north side.
Right.
to preserve the tree,
That's right, the 30-inch tree.
preserve the root system. Okay. Anybody else? The applicant certainly made with regard to the landscape plan, the suggestions, incorporated the suggestions we had asked for. So I'm satisfied that this is a better plan than what was originally brought before the board, and certainly there's more protection to the neighbors, provides them some much more screening than was originally proposed, and seems to address drainage issues better than it previously did. So.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Well, the board right now is deliberating. So, Mr. Suresti, do you want to reopen to have your client say something?
What is the nature of your question? What are you interested in?
Yeah, I just wanted to just understand correctly that the windows are going to stay outside of the house, but smaller, correct?
as long as there's going to be no living space up in that third attic and we're going to have the pull down stairs, but is that also no windows either? Or what did we agree upon to move this forward?
I think they agreed that you could, I think they agree that if you have a pull down staircase and you're stipulating that it's strictly storage,
Right.
that I believe that the windows would remain. I
Okay,
think that was the understanding.
Perfect. Thank you.
In other words, if this passes, Mrs. Wad, that would be in the resolution. So if ultimately there was any kind of change in that with regard to your use of the attic, that'd be a violation of the resolution. So it would be.
Of course.
it
It's
would
just
be formalized.
only prettiness or the way it looks. That's all. It's nothing else. It's a big house when nobody's going to be up there.
Okay, board members? Anything else? Nobody has any comments? Okay. Well, if nobody has any comments, does anybody have a motion with regard to this matter? Everybody's on mute except me?
I motion to approve the application with the stipulations as outlined, with landscaping, the third floor not being used as living space and no downlighting.
Second,
Before we vote on it, Mr. Hanley, were you able to get all those stipulations that we had discussed with regard to
Yes.
the?
No downlighting along the perimeter of the building, pull down stairway from the attic. The attic can be used for storage only. I did not get all of Mr. Seetsma's landscaping items, but as he stated them, changes would be made to the retaining wall and the windows on the second and a half floor can remain.
I believe that was everything. And then Glenn, when the resolution comes out, you can review the language with regard to the landscaping.
I will call Mr. Seetsma before I draft a resolution
Okay.
Kevin, I can email you the changes.
Okay, thank you very much, Glenn.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I can ask a question, please, just for clarification. When we say no downlighting, can we describe that, please, so I understand what we're talking about?
Rudy, I guess that was you had brought that up.
Mark, a lot of these big homes that go up, there's one on Charnwood actually that I saw this morning. I was up there early. They have perimeter lighting under the eave of the roof.
So
Directed-
hi-hats in the soffits, hi-hats in the
Yes,
soffits?
Right.
Okay.
And it's
So
very
you-
bright I think the neighbor stated pretty well. It just lights up the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it makes it stand out. This is going to be a big house that looms over the neighborhood anyway, the neighbors. Right. And we don't need all night lighting on it to accentuate that.
What a lot of people have been doing is they're putting in landscape uplighting where they illuminate the sides. Okay, so you're okay with that? We specifically don't want.
I specifically do not want
the
down-directed lights that light up the entire sides of the building, actually.
Got it.
Landscaping lights are more muted.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, just to clarify that before we vote. So, okay, can we have a roll call, Maureen?
Okay, so we had Mr. Alexandru made a motion and Mr. Homechek second.
I believe so.
Correct.
Thank you. Mr. Sedita,
Approved.
Mr. Homechek,
yes.
Mr. Seetsma,
Yes.
Mr. Alexandru,
Yes.
Ms. Bogdansky. Yes. Mr. Boonstra,
No.
Mayor Rubin,
Yes.
Chairman Fortunato.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Suresti.
Hey, thank you for your time and attention.
You ready for the
Appreciate it.
next-
Thank you.
Okay, So the next item we have on is the Albemarle Court matter. Just get my paperwork. Mr. Whitaker, that's your matter, right? You want to come?
That is correct.
Can we take a break for a couple of minutes, please?
Sure. It's, what do we got?
9:09.
9:09. Why don't we come back at 9:15? Okay, everyone can have a bathroom break. Everybody mute during the, while we're off, please. Okay, it's 9:15. Is everybody back? Okay. All right, Mr. Maureen, everyone appears to be back?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Mr. Whitaker.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Bruce Whitaker from the firm of McDonald Whitaker, representing the applicant, Nicholas and Jennifer Demetriou, in connection with their soil movement application. This is an application for soil movement for the purposes of permitting the family to construct a home there, which they wish to reside in. It exceeds the movement of 100 cubic yards, which requires under the 163 ordinance that you have a soil movement application. The home being built is a home that is variance-free. The application and the plans have been prepared by David Halls Engineering. Mr. Halls has submitted drainage calculations. He has provided to Mr. DeGennaro on August the 16th written certification that the proposed construction will have a zero increase in storm water runoff from the site. That's something that Mr. DeGennaro always requires, and he has it on file. We have already received Bergen County Soil Conservation certification. We will stipulate to the board as a condition of any approval you may grant that there'll be underground utility, and the soil that would be imported, some 163 cubic yards, will have a soil analysis and a certificate of origin, which is required by Mr. DeGennaro when he does a review. Unless there's any preliminary questions of me, I would call David Halls as our first witness to be sworn in.
Mr. Halls, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, could you state your name, your business name, and your business address?
David Halls, H-A-L-S. The address is 9 Post Road, Suite M11, Oakland, New Jersey. I'm a licensed professional engineer, land surveyor, and planner in the state of New Jersey.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Halls has been qualified on many occasions as an expert witness in the fields he just described. Do you need a voir dire tonight, or can we stipulate to that?
No, we can stipulate to it, I believe, Mr. Whitaker. He's going to be testifying in what field?
Basically, only engineering, because that's all we need for soil movement.
Okay. You proceed.
Thank you very much. Mr. Halls, you've prepared the plans that have been submitted with the application. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You have a familiarity with the property itself, and you had the plans prepared by you and under your direction.
That's correct.
I would like you to describe the existing conditions and what is being proposed as it pertains to the soil movement aspect.
Yeah, I prepared the plan entitled Plot Plan Block 429, Lot 32, 802 Albemarle Street. It's dated September 9th, 2020, and it has a last revision date of January 4th, 2021. The property is 802 Albemarle Street. It's block 429, lot 32. The property is located on the southeasterly sideline of Albemarle Street between Steinhauser Lane and Birchwood Lane. Property is located in the RA 25 zone. The lot is 125 feet wide by 200 feet deep, and it's 25,000 square feet. It's a rectangular shaped lot. Existing on the property, an existing single-family home and a driveway located on the right side of the home. Presently, right now, the property has the neighbor, it's not the rear yard of the property, I was trying to say, is fenced in by fences from the neighbor's properties. When you're facing the property to the right is a PVC fence, and beyond that, the neighbor has a substantial arborvitae row along on their property. The left-hand property is a chain link fence, and the whole entire rear yard of this property is cleared. The property presently rises slightly from the street to the front of the house, but a very gentle 2% slope to the front of the house. Then from the house to the rear yard, it slopes toward the property slopes to the rear at a slope of approximately 5%. The proposal is to demolish the existing house and the driveway and other site improvements on the property and construct a new 2.5-story dwelling. The gross building area of the new home is 4,804 square feet. It'll have a new driveway located on the right-hand side of the driveway. The driveway will be is not in the exact same location as the existing home. It's closer to the property line on the right property line. The proposed home is located in conformance with the RA25 zone district. It meets all the zone district requirements for building setbacks, the front yard, side yard, and rear yard setbacks. It also meets the coverage requirements for the home itself. The new utilities to the home will all be underground, so there'll be new underground electric. We will be using the water services as they come to the curb line, but from the curb line to the house, we'll be redoing those services for the water, gas, and the sewer lateral. The roof runoff from the proposed house and the driveway is going to be collected from inlets, or we'll collect the gutter system on the house. That'll be piped to 2 seepage pits that'll be located in the rear of the house, so that we'll be making substantial drainage improvements over what currently has on the property. There are no drainage improvements on the existing house, but there will be with the new one, and it'll collect 100% of the roof and the driveway runoff from the site. The proposed grading will maintain the exact same drainage patterns as currently exist on the property. We will have same gentle slope from Albemarle to the front of the house, and that'll rising up from the street. And then from the front of the house, it will be graded off. We are going to raise the grade slightly in the back of approximately 1.5 foot right at the house and feather it out towards the rear. In doing so, we'll increase the pitch of the rear yard very, very slightly. You and I probably couldn't see it with our naked eye, but we will be utilizing the excavation, most of the excavation from the home towards filling in the rear yard, spreading that. And so that there's no real change to the grading of the property. The actual soil movement that we're having on the site, we have a cut of 304 cubic yards, and we're filling 467. The total soil movement will be 771 cubic yards, of which, as I mentioned before, 304 is the excavation. 163 is going to be required to be imported to the site, and that translates out to between 12 and 15 truckloads. And so it's a very small amount of soil is being brought to the site. This what I would classify as a very modest amount of soil movement. And this is really minimizes the soil movement because we're placing the new house in a very similar location as the existing house, so that while we're expanding the footprint, that's the only thing that's really generating the soil movement is the rear yard expansion of the footprint of over the current house itself. There's no increase in the stormwater runoff from the site. As I mentioned before, this is actually a reduction from the runoff from the property right now. And then lastly, we filed for a soil erosion sediment control permit from Bergen County Soil Conservation District, and they have issued that. And that is basically our soil movement approval.
Thank you, Mr. Halls. You prepared a letter and certification that I referenced earlier of August the 16th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
and that indicates that you will have a 0 increase in runoff from this site based upon the plans you've submitted.
Yes, there's actually a reduction in the runoff from the current conditions.
And in connection with the soil that's going to be imported, it's understood that that will be done under the jurisdiction and of Mr. Mark DeGennaro in connection with providing for a location of where the soil is coming from, have it analyzed, and a certificate of origin be placed with the Township of Wykoff, correct?
That is correct.
You are familiar with Section 186 of the Township ordinances, specifically paragraph H, that talks in terms of what is required for a soil movement permit and what the necessity is for erosion control and for the proper excavation and movement of soil, correct?
That is correct.
Would it be correct to say that the plans that you've provided address all of the concerns and issues that are raised in that ordinance?
They do. We specifically providing our soil erosion measures to control the runoff, potential runoff from the site during construction. We have the proper stabilization measures in place. So following construction, we address all those. And we, again, it's such a small amount of soil moving in terms of trucks and traffic that I believe that there'll be a minimal impact on the neighborhood with the proposed construction.
And the other board that has the ability to review and either approve or disapprove soil movement is the Bergen County Soil Conservation District, and they in fact have issued a certification approving this, correct?
That is correct.
And an applicant is required under their jurisdiction to follow all of the soil erosion controls, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I have nothing further at this time.
Thanks, Mr. Whitaker. Mr. Howes, I just have a preliminary question. How many seepage pits are being proposed?
We're proposing 2 seepage pits. There's one on the left rear corner of the property of the house, and there's one on the right rear corner opposite the end of the driveway.
And where do those show on your plans? I'm just trying to.
I could show you if I could, if you want me to.
Are they on the first page, the second page?
They're on the first page. They're actually on the first page, yes. They're,
they show on the diagram?
I'm sorry, what?
And they show on the survey of the house part?
They're on
Oh,
the
yeah, I
first
see, I
page.
see them here. The PVC piping was going to be leading to them, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So they're off of each corner of the house in the back.
Yeah, we set them off to the side there for any future pool or other improvements that may be done to the home in the rear yard.
Okay.
So it doesn't impact any future development.
And this house has a sewer hookup, correct?
That is correct.
Any questions of Mr. Howes or Halls? I think I'm mispronouncing your name.
Call me anything you like, actually.
I'd prefer to get it right. I see you're going to be calling an architect as well, right, Mr.
We're going to be calling our landscape architect.
Yes, okay. Okay, anybody have any other questions of the engineer before we let him go and we open up to the public? Hearing none? Okay, we'll open it up. This would be, we'll open it up to the public. This would be for questions of Mr. Halls only at this point. Maureen, is Mr. Messinio still on the line?
Yes, he is.
Is anybody else on the line?
No, Mr. Bolick is still on the line, but he's not calling in about this application.
Okay, so and nobody has submitted any written comments, correct?
No, that's correct.
Okay.
So
Why don't you bring Mr. Messinio up?
Mr. Messinio, you can unmute yourself if you want to ask a question of the engineer.
Mr.
I have no
Messinio-
questions. I have
Oh, you have no
questions.
questions of the engineer. Okay, there'll be a general comment section.
I
before we
believe Mr.
vote.
Messinio, Mr. Chairman, is watching us and interested in it as the contractor.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's all.
I understand. Okay. All right. Anybody else from the public? We'll give it 10 seconds. If no one else calls in, Maureen will close it as to questions of the engineer. Okay, hearing no one else, we'll close. And you can proceed with your next witness, Mr. Whitaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Call David Beasley.
Yes.
Raise your right hand and have it be sworn in by Mr. Hanley.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
State your name, your business name, and your business address.
David Beasley with Bourse Landscape Design, 260 West Crescent Avenue, Suite 101.
Mr. Beasley, would you just give us a brief background of your professional credentials as it pertains to designing and doing designs for landscaping?
Yes, I've been doing landscape designs for the past 15 years.
And who are you affiliated with?
I have no professional affiliations.
Affiliated with Bourse Landscaping?
Yes.
Okay. And with that said, you've been engaged by the applicant for purposes of creating a landscape design?
Yes.
And that landscape design's been submitted to the township for purposes of this application?
Yes, it has.
I would like you to take us through what is being proposed on the site from a landscaping perspective.
Can I just ask a question, Mr. Whitaker, before he goes on, just to clarify for the record? Mr. Beasley, your line of work and what you're going to be testifying to, does it require any type of certifications or licenses?
For this, no, there's no need for certification or a license for a landscape plan such as this.
Okay, and you've been doing this for 15 years, you said?
Yes.
Have you testified before the planning board in Wyckoff before?
Yes, I have.
Okay. All right. So the board will recognize Mr. Beasley as an expert as to landscape design.
Thank you. Mr. Beasley, if you would, walk us through what's being proposed from a landscape perspective.
Sure. Across the front of the property, there are 3 large-sized shade trees being installed, them being linden. They're 4-inch caliper trees, so it's a substantially sized tree. There is a front foundation planting consisting of evergreens and some flowering shrubs. There's screening for the AC units with skip laurel, which is an evergreen shrub, on the left side of the house. Along the back property line, there are 10 green giant arborvitae to provide some privacy from the neighbors. Those are to be installed at 7 to 8 feet tall. There are also a total of 7 shade trees being installed in the backyard with a mixture of sugar maples and black gum trees. They are also 4-inch caliper trees.
No further questions at this point as it pertains to this plan, Mr. Chairman.
I have an initial question. Mr. Beasley, when I went to the site, if you're looking at the house from the street, I know there's a relatively new house on the right, and that house seems to have a lot of arborvitaes. I think the engineer mentioned that. There's screening on the neighbor's side of the property. It's pretty significant screening. When I look at the left side, though, there's no screening at all between the residence, the proposed residence, or the existing one now, and where the proposed one's meant to be, and the neighbor. And I don't see anything on the plan. Was there any reason there was no screening incorporated on that side?
No, it was just more of an aesthetic purpose. There's a small shed on that neighbor's property to the left, and that's where you'll see one of the shade trees, some evergreen shrubs and some flowering shrubs are placed there to provide some screening for that, but otherwise it was left open. There is screening along the back property line that looks into the neighbor's house, and that's where the arborvitae and the large maple trees are, as well as some flowering shrubs and perennials.
Okay. I mean, does your client have any objection to putting some screening? I mean, if you listen to our last application, screening, especially with newer, larger residences, is something that the board generally looks favorably on along that property line, along where the house is going to be.
Okay, I have not talked to him or know if he would object or not.
I can check, Mr. Chairman, while we go through this meeting and see. I don't think it's going to be a problem. I just as an overview, I've been involved with a lot of the applications at the Zoning Board of Adjustment. And I'm not suggesting that both of you boards have to agree, but I've gotten to learn what, at least there where I do more single family homes where they need variances. And one of the things that I've been told by their review on landscaping is they don't like to see a wall of landscaping, but rather likes to see some things staggered and not big walls of arborvitae. So if we're guilty of not doing that tonight in front of the planning board, part of that is Whitaker's advice is that, hey, my other applications, they didn't want to see that. So I'm certainly sure we can massage it and do something, but that's what I have learned from the other board. And honestly, from Mr. Borst. So who reviews them at the ZBA.
Well, Mr. Seatsman's here and he's also in that,
Yes.
in that business. So I'd like to throw it over to him and get his opinions. Glenn, would you like to comment on that, please?
I'm not sure how much room we have on that left side for, I mean, I'm sure they could intersperse some evergreen over there just to soften it up a little bit, screen it up a little bit. I would not recommend a screen on that left-hand side screening.
Okay. I mean, do you have any specific recommendations as to location or how many or what type of planting?
Well, I mean, those trees are big trees. I mean, there's going to be big canopies on those. They're 4-inch caliper now. They're going to give large canopy and screening themselves. Between the proposed house and the property line, you don't have a whole lot of room there. So I would have to go out there and see it if they were looking to screen that off.
Okay. I mean, that was the only thing I noticed. I mean, because generally we try to make a point of that.
Overall, I think the landscape plan was very well done.
Okay. I mean, that's your field, so I'll defer to you on that. That's for sure. Any other board comments, questions of Mr. Beasley?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, please. Mr. Beasley, the rear property line where you have the arborvitaes and the sugar maples, is that going to be bermed up in a like a raised bed?
No.
Okay. Is there any way that site runoff may get onto the adjacent property if we didn't berm it up a little bit?
I mean, you are talking, it would be going downhill towards that area as it does now. We could berm it up, but then, you might be worried about trapping water that's, following its natural course downhill.
So, but you would put it in a mulch bed though, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that would be, yes, they're definitely a
So
mulch. I just would raise the grade.
You would have like a 6-inch mulch bed, I would imagine. That's all I'm suggesting.
Yeah, no, I would have the mulch bed. I just didn't know if you were talking about raising the grade.
No, I wouldn't say just a mulch bed.
Yeah,
so
there'd be
at
a
least
mulch bed in
it's
there,
raised
sure.
up and the water that does come off, because I know I had some concerns from the adjacent neighbors in the rear on a recent inspection. So that would be something that if you built it up as a mulch bed, I think that would be adequate.
Yes, no, that is proposed to be mulch all throughout there.
Good.
No objection to that being a stipulation.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Rudy, you have any comments?
Actually, I don't on this one. I had the same thought that you did about a little screening on the left-hand side, but if Glenn is okay with this plan, I'm okay with it.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Maureen, is anybody else? We'll open it to the public to question Mr. Beasley. Anybody there?
No.
We'll give it 15 seconds. Nobody calls in and we'll close it as to the public. Okay. No one from the public appearing. We'll close it as to the questioning of Mr. Beasley. Proceed, Mr. Whitaker. You don't have any other witnesses, I assume, right?
Well, you had mentioned, do I have the architect here tonight? I've done soil movement in the past where I have used an architect, and sometimes when I didn't. If the board wants to get some brief testimony as to describing the house, Mike Scrow is on board now, our architect. He can give you a very brief overview, and we'll tell you what the the materials are that's being used for the very traditional Wyckoff style house.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful, Mr. Whitaker.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have Mike Scrow join us and be sworn in.
Mr. Scroll, raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Can you state your name, business name, and business address?
Certainly. Michael Scrow, SCRO. I'm one of the principals here at Z Plus Architects, 240 West Crescent Ave, Allendale, New Jersey.
Mr. Scrow, would you give us your professional and educational background?
Certainly. I received a Bachelor of Architecture from Penn State University and a Master's in Architecture from Yale. I've been a sole practitioner in our practice here for coming on 20 years. I'm in good standing, licensed architect in the state of New Jersey, in good standing, appearing in numerous municipalities throughout the state.
And it's correct to say that you've been qualified as an expert witness in the field of architecture, in fact, before this board and the zoning board in Wyckoff. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I offer him as a professional expert witness in the field of architecture for tonight's hearing.
Yes, the board will recognize Mr. Scrow as an expert in the field of architecture.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Scrow, you were engaged by the applicant for the purpose of designing the home on the property. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you provided that information to Mr. Halls, who used that information in putting the footprint on for the building that's shown on the plans for the soil movement, correct?
Also correct.
Referencing your architectural plans, I would just like you to describe what the building size is, what style it is, and most importantly, what type of materials are contemplating to be used for the outside facade of the building.
Happy to. So the building, a single-family residence, is comprised of a first floor of 1,792 square feet, in addition to an 884 square foot garage, yielding a 2,676 square foot footprint. When you combine that then with the front porch steps, the side stoop, the rear covered entry, chimney, you essentially get a total building footprint of 3,304 square feet. The livable area, when you combine first and second floors, is a combined 4,804 square feet, certainly in keeping with the scale and size homes that you would find throughout Wyckoff. We are not encroaching the building height in any way. There's a 35-foot maximum allowed, and we envision that from our first floor to ridge is 29.11 3/4. Let's call that argumentatively 30 feet. The garage is suppressed an additional 3 feet 4 inches. That would be the low point as measured from the lowest point to the highest, yielding 33 feet 4 inches, a foot and a half or more below the max building height. In terms of the principal exterior materials, it's a combination. We're going to be using hardy board clapboard, traditional siding, obviously very well and well tested and commonly used throughout the municipality and the general area. We're also going to be introducing what's called new cedar shake. So it's essentially the same exact material that you'd find in AZEC trim. It's a PVC individual shake. It's not in sheets. It's an amazingly beautiful product, actually superior, in my opinion, to hardy shake. Takes on an incredibly natural look. You can really, it comes in hundreds, if not thousands of colors, and it has a much more natural modeled appearance, much like natural shake does. The company warrants that finish for life, and it's a transferable warranty from my understanding. So certainly a high confidence. We've used it throughout the area, most recently in Ridgewood, Saddle River, I believe. So it's a combination of shake and siding, clapboard siding, but both very high durability, low maintenance. I'm going to be using AZEC trim, your usual lifetime timberline asphalt roof with some accent standing seam metal roofing in some of the gable peaks. And there will also be a natural stone veneer, so 2-inch, not bearing on a foundation, but not also not a composite or a man-made product. It'll be a natural stone veneer. I think that largely describes the size and general characteristic. The house is comprised from a form standpoint of your traditional gable roofs, a shed dormer, very nice ample sized windows. There'll be Anderson 400 series windows with simulated divided light, not snap-in grills or anything of the sort. All in all, a nice home.
Thank you. That would conclude my presentation of witnesses.
Thanks, Mr. Whitaker. Well, Mr. Sproul, just following up on what we went through in our last application.
Okay.
What's the proposal with regard to the attic?
So the attic is unfinished space. It does have certain vaulted areas. I'll try to be specific. We've got a master bedroom vaulted ceiling, which takes up that right-hand portion of the home. So if you're looking at the home from the street, essentially the right-hand side gable, front to back, is a vaulted space. So that's not really attic per se at all. And then the remaining attic has, let me see, we've located a pull-down attic stair in the hallway. Typical, the stair does not continue, nor could it continue up to the attic. You'll notice its configuration on sheet A103, simply a down, a stair down. The client had contemplated at one point a staircase for more safe and easy access up to the attic, and we simply advised him that sometimes can be misconstrued as what could possibly be done in the future. So he listened to our advice and removed that. So we just have a typical pull-down attic stair, and attic would be comprised largely simply over the center to left-hand side of the house for storage and mechanical use only.
And it would not be sheetrocked?
I don't believe it would be sheetrock. We'll have we would want a plywood deck just for ease of navigating and not having to kind of jump between joists. But there's no need to fire rate, and right now we're contemplating fiberglass bat insulation, but there is the potential that we would look at a closed cell foam for greater performance. We pass res check with simply the bat, but at the same time, it is something for our clients from time to time look to upgrade. If that's the case, there are times we will sheetrock it simply to kind of enhance the fire rating on that insulation type, but it is not currently contemplated, and I would say that it is right now to remain on with no sheetrock gypsum.
And there had been some concern in the previous application about the windows into the attic. So you show 3 windows in the center of the structure.
Yeah, that is, I can assure you that if you look at the vast majority of our homes, we're constantly trying to activate those dead gable spaces a little bit. It's not the worst thing either. If you look at, traditionally older homes across the board in the 20s and 30s would have windows in unfinished attics just to cast a little bit of light and crack, get a little fresh air in there to avoid dry rot and such. It literally is just because those are larger gable shapes. And they can get relatively blank. So we actually had that conversation with the client. We were looking to value engineer those out at one point, and I had encouraged to kind of just aesthetically try to keep those in. I do believe, and I could be wrong, but let me check this. Yeah, that I see what you're saying. So yes, up in the gable, and then obviously the shed dormer you're referring to. I'm sorry, those are the 3 that are ganged.
You're right, in the center of the structure.
In the center, yes. That's simply just to try to create a little bit of balance in what would otherwise be a relatively blank and undifferentiated roof line.
And do the skirt roofs that you have above the windows on the second floor, are those proposed to be metal roofs?
Yes, those are standing seam aluminum. Really a nice look that gives you some extra durability and kind of breaks the line. I think a lot of times you could do it in a less expensive way, perhaps just with a freeze board of trim, but this is a slightly richer look. We've got deeper soffits to try to enhance shadow line and create better aesthetic as well. So that metal roof there works quite well.
And the gable is proposed with a metal roof too?
The shed dormer, yes, in the
Shed
middle.
dormer.
Yes. Mhm. Correct.
Okay.
As is, I'm sorry, just to be extra clear, as is the small breakfast room bump off the rear facade, just to get a little more kind of texture and kind of quality in the back there. If you look at A sheet 201, rear elevation number 2, you'll see that right in the middle of the house, the lower level. Yeah.
Okay. And those would all be matching color, same color?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be tone on tone with the roof. We're not really looking for a color change as much as just a textural.
Thank you, Mr. Scrow. Anybody have any questions, Mr. Scrow?
Mr. Scrow, you weren't present for the earlier meeting, but just so the record's clear, and Mr. Boonstra is happy at this late hour, there's no soffit lighting and there's no stucco, correct?
Correct on both counts.
Thank you.
And there's only I think you said there's only a pull down stair to the attic, correct?
That is correct, Chairman.
Okay.
I have a question. I noticed that in the basement you have a full bath. Why is there a full bath down there?
Okay, so if you notice that there's a gym off to the left-hand side of the stair, and that simply you'll see that this is really a poor candidate for any type of inclusion of a bedroom. There was no interest in the client's part. He has older children anyhow, but he just wanted the convenience of being able to work out and then be able to shower and get dressed on that level. So it's purely for convenience. Now, that finished basement, that main space might be, I don't know if there'll be a pool table or, kind of a couch area with some TVs and such. So also just for convenience for not having to go upstairs to use the bathroom, but certainly with no proposed exterior windows, or excuse me, basement windows or egress, there's no contemplation for anything other.
And Mr. Scrow, just for the record, the structure as you've proposed doesn't require any variances, correct?
That is correct. It's compliant.
Anybody else have any questions, Mr. Scrow? No? Okay, we'll open it up to the public. Questions of Mr. Scrow. Maureen, anybody on the line?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll give it 10 seconds and then we'll close that. Okay, no one from the public appearing. We'll close the public comment section as to Mr. Scrow. Go ahead, Mr. Wicker.
This completes our presentation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Okay, members of the board, discussion. It sounds like Mr. Seatsma, our resident expert, satisfied with the landscape plan, which is good enough with me. And I guess Mr. Boonstra said he was satisfied with that as well. I think we've got assurances that the attic will not be used. I mean, we could include that in a resolution as we did in the last matter, that the attic won't be used for living space. The plan already shows a pull down staircase.
Just to be clear, the reason I asked about for the project on Vance Ave, it's a large, expansive attic. And this does not have that. It's broken up and there are different angles and levels. And that's why I asked the question on the previous application and not this one. So.
Yeah, and I thought it was a good point though, Rudy.
Yeah.
Any other comments? If not, then can we have a motion? There's no objection to the application.
Make a motion to approve this application.
Second, Mike.
Mr. Seatsma and Mr. Homechak?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Sedita?
Yes.
Mr. Homechak?
Yes.
Mr. Seatsma?
Yes.
Mr. Alexandru?
Yes.
Ms. Bogdansky? Yes. Mr. Boonstra?
Yes.
Mayor Rubenstein?
Yes.
Chairman Fortunato?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Whittaker. Be well.
Thank you. Good to see you, and stay safe.
You too.
Night,
Have a
Bruce.
good, have a good evening.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thank
Stay
you.
dry in the snow.
Good
Good
night.
job, Chip.
Night.
Before 10 o'clock.
Take care.
Good night.
Good to see everyone. Take care of yourselves.
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
All in favor, aye.
Second.
Did we lose
Aye.
everybody? Anyone opposed?
No.
Okay.
Night.
Go to bed.
Aye.